Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the August Love Story podcast. I'm your host, Tommy T, and this is my beautiful wife, A-Town, Artieka T.
Okay.
And today we're talking about, we're having a conversation about divorce. No, we're not getting divorced, but we're just having a conversation about it. Since marriages actually end, 50% of marriages actually end in divorce. So definitely a conversation to have when getting married and being in a relationship and all that good stuff. But before we do, please, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell to get the notifications. Like the channel, like this video, even though you haven't watched it all the way, just like it anyway, and everything like that. Let's get into it. So, to start off, I want to ask you, what's your thoughts on the stat that 50% of marriages end in divorce, and some of the causes you think?
I guess if you have to look at it as 50% of marriages end in divorce, you should also look at the fact that 50% of marriages don't end in divorce. Yeah. We always take the negative side of the stat to like promote the agenda or whatever you're trying to push, whatever that narrative is. And maybe the narrative for us should be that 50% of marriages make it. What can we do to increase that stat to 60% of marriages and then higher and higher
above that?
I think that a lot of marriages that I know of that have ended have mostly, like, at least people that I am around and that have one party or the other have verbalized anything about their marriage dissolving, has usually been irreconcilable differences. And usually that's just a big lumped up, like a term to lump in. We grew at different paces.
Yeah.
Of course, you always have money. You always have the irreconcilable differences. Like, I'm growing, they're not, they're growing, I'm not, or we're not growing in the same direction. And then you have the cheating.
Yeah.
And all that stuff that comes along with infidelity, and if you can get past it, blah, 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 yada, yada.
Yeah.
But I would say that the biggest things that I hear about is just like, some people are literally just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I have a friend that recently told me that, and she feels like she's just buying time in her marriage because she's like, I don't really want to be here anymore, but I don't have a reason to leave.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not gonna be the one to tell her to leave because that's not what I do.
Yeah, right.
But I understand it. Like, it totally makes sense. Like, I think that's not something that you understand until you've been married before, that you can see why people leave and why people stay, because we like to make things so very clear when we're single people. Like, oh, if they do this, I'm gone.
Right, I'm out.
And it's like, nah, that's not how it works. That is not how it works at all. Like, you think or you thought, but no, it's not gonna work like that. Not every time. Like, there's always exceptions to the rule.
Like, the field goal always moves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, there's people that we know of who were getting cheated on in a relationship, like, that was not married. And it's like, you want me to believe that you're all of a sudden going to leave because you married them, but you won't leave a boyfriend?
Right.
Get out my face.
Stop lying to
like,
me.
Get out my face with that. So it's just like, it's different ages, different stages of the relationship tell you what you're going to do and what would at least make you leave the relationship. And then you always have the group of people who are not getting divorced until they find somebody new.
Yeah. One of the things that I find always interesting is how money and like the biggest causes are money and usually it's infidelity, right? I find it interesting just because most people are like, no, I'm not in it for the money. And
most people don't have enough money to be in it for it.
Right. But most people are like, no, I'm not in it for the money. But they get offended when people bring up prenup, like a prenup agreement, right? So somebody says, hey, I want you to sign this prenup agreement. And usually my thoughts on the prenup agreement is people with assets, people that have things to protect, just in case something, like just in case we're part of the bad 50% and not the good 50%. And that's all that a prenup is for. A prenuptial agreement is basically to protect both parties, the husband and the wife, or both spouses, in a offset event that you guys break up.
Let's just be completely honest. Most of us don't have enough money to have any assets.
And that's my thought.
Because so many, especially like of our friends or people in our like socioeconomic, it's not that we don't have assets, but what can she take from you? Your car?
Right. And that was my question. Is it beneficial for, like, is it, I feel like it's more beneficial for people with a lot of assets. Like, I don't see like somebody coming into their first marriage 22, 23 years old, 24 years old, or like us, we was 29 years old with just starting out as far as like getting things together as being adult, figuring out, getting ready to, move into an apartment. Like doesn't really have a lot of things to their name. Like they may own their car,
but they don't own homes or anything like that. They don't own a
home. They,
My suggestion for that would be post-nups, but that's something that has to be bought up. Prenup.
Right.
Like you don't want to, and I'll use you for an example. You don't want to get into this marriage with me at 29 years old. We don't own anything more than vehicles. I mean, you have a house, okay, but you don't like own a ton of things, and then your business takes off. You're making 7 figures or 8 figures annually, and then you hit me with, I need a post-nup.
Nah, that ain't gonna work. Like,
so now you don't trust me? Because that's what it sounds like.
Right, that's
or
what it is.
Sounds like you're trying to go walk out the door and you're trying to protect yourself on your walk out the door. Yeah. So for that, like, okay, a house. We make an agreement that if it's my house, we live in my house. But in the dissolution of the relationship, it's still my house. Or we buy a house together. In the dissolution of this relationship, we sell this house, we split the money 50-50. Or you come up with some type of agreement for that. But I think that you can't, it's hard to say start with the end in mind, but you do have to start with the end in mind. That was one of the things that I liked about Chance the Rapper and his wife before they got married. Granted, they had been together for a while. They had a kid together. They got married, and then they had another kid together. But he said, while everything was going great, let's talk about what happens when it's not great. Yeah. So let's go ahead and plan out custody. Let's go ahead and plan out a dollar amount, because as my happy wife, you're going to not be after me for just money. Like you're going to be a
sound. You're gonna be of sound mind. Yeah.
You're gonna be fair. So, you could say it's this much per kid, it's this much a month in alimony for this many months or this many years. And then we can be done with it. And there's no argument because we've come up with this in happy times. But if, like we were just saying, You start a business, you grow that business, we're making multi-millions, and then you hit me with this my money?
Yeah. It's going to be problems.
Bruh, it's not. It's our money. Because I've sacrificed something to help you make this money. Whether it be something as simple as, I don't want to get up and make you dinner every night, but I'm doing it because you staying out late and you can't make your own self something to eat. Like, I've sacrificed something for this relationship. And you just have to figure out what those sacrifices are.
No, I'm totally with you on that, man. Just it's such a bad connotation when it comes to prenups and everything like that. And I hate it just because it's just a protection.
Right.
Because when you do go through a divorce, or like from what I've seen or what I imagine, just from like a regular breakup, it's you breaking up from a girlfriend or a boyfriend, it's hard enough.
Wouldn't for me, but okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying for some people, it's hard enough for them to have to look at a person, have to deal with a person, and you know that you just ended this relationship. Now you multiply that by 10.
Right.
When you're in a marriage, like we have assets together, we have children together, we have, we bought a house together, we did this together, we did that together, and then over time, we've been together for so many years, and now all of a sudden you have to break up.
Right. That's completely difficult to say. I'm going to remove myself from this situation and I don't get anything out of it.
Right.
Nothing but time spent. That's a jail sentence.
Right. Exactly. So it's like, I think a prenup is smart to have. When it comes to like protecting the assets you had personally before you guys got married. But anything in between those two numbers,
community property.
It's ours and not yours.
That's what I'm saying. It's community property. Like, at this point, I can't even say you owned your car before we got married because I help you pay off your car. Right. So, like, with that, the vehicle that you have, the vehicle that I have, we have both invested money into both of them. The property that we have both invested money into it. Now, because of the legacy of one of the properties that, you have, I'm not going to try to infiltrate that. Like, that is a family line, but I would expect the exact same thing from my side. If I ended up being given something, I wouldn't expect you to want it just because you are my spouse.
Right.
That is something that I think that, it just is what it is. Taxes on it, however many thousands of dollars. Yeah, maybe collectively we are paying those taxes, but at the ending of it, it's mine or it's yours. Like, the
way I look at it is, man, you married a person, and some people don't marry people for the right reasons.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We all know that, we've all seen that, and we understand that happens. But for the most part, people marry people because they are in love with a person and they can't see themselves without this person.
Right.
In what shape, form, or fashion that they feel like they should love this person, they should be with this person and want to spend the rest of their life with them. I don't feel like anybody comes into a marriage with, at 42, I'm going to get a divorce with this person. I think divorces and splits and separations all happen over a span of time. But not the only time that it doesn't happen is in the beginning when you're getting married. So with that, it's like, that's the best time to even think about when you're gonna,
because you're happy.
When you're gonna split. But even though, you guys are happy and stuff like that, at the end of it, you have to think it's hard because you never know where people ended their relationship at. Like, somebody could have been domestic violence, it could have been cheating, it could have been just we outgrowing each other, it could have been money issues, it could be a plethora of things. It's just in between that dash, or in between those two numbers, you have to think, okay, how do I protect myself but also protect this person too? Right. Because at some point y'all had each other's back. Allegedly. You should have. You know what I'm saying? which leads me into my next thing. We had the conversation. Mm-hmm. We didn't sign a prenup because like we came into it broke as a joke. I didn't have anything. She didn't have anything.
I don't want your debt.
Right. We had debt to come into this thing. But I love my wife dearly. And it's nothing that I wouldn't do for her. You know what I'm saying? Hearted. But the big thing, like we had the conversation and I asked her, is it important for people to have a conversation about divorce? And of course she was like, yeah, it's important because you don't know what may happen. And I told her, I said, I don't want a messy divorce if we ever was to get divorced.
It's funny because we just talked about this again recently.
Right.
Like in the last 3 weeks.
Right. I told her I don't want a messy divorce. I don't want it to prolong, and I still want to be, friends. Like, because at the end of the day, our relationship started as friends. Mm-hmm. We were like really good friends before we actually started dating, and we became really good friends before we started dating. Mm-hmm. But
I told him I couldn't make any promises.
But the big thing,
messy.
But the big thing was, I was like, no, regardless of what happens, I'm going to be more than fair.
Oh, absolutely. But that is one thing that I can say that, I tell people this about you. I don't tell you this because I don't like to give you a big head. But like, you are a very fair person. And you're I don't want to say a calculated person, but you weigh every single option of what could happen in the process. So it's like, if I don't give her enough of this, then okay, she might go jump off of a bridge. So let me figure out how can I eliminate this and this, but still be comfortable over here for myself. Yeah. And so you're really good about doing things like that, because there's been a lot of situations that you've been in and I'd be like, don't give them nothing. Yeah. And you're like, nah, it's the right thing to do. And I'm like, I don't care about right or wrong. So I think that you would be able to be more than fair. God is working on me.
Yeah. But I feel like...
So if we ever divorce, just pray for me.
Right. Like, and the funny part about it is, the thing that I think about is, if I gave you a fair offer mm-hmm. or something like that, because I believe like whatever it is mm-hmm. that we have gained, mm-hmm. we split that.
Okay.
Just because the reason is I wouldn't be in the place that I'm at. I never would have went back to school.
Right.
I never would have. I would still have a child. I would be a father of 2 children.
You would be.
I wouldn't be working at the place that I'm working at. I wouldn't even be on this podcast. We wouldn't have a YouTube channel. We wouldn't have a lot of things if it wasn't for you mm-hmm. giving me the idea to even try things outside of the box.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's because I live every day praying to God that, hey, let me make today better than yesterday, because my wife deserves it, because my daughter deserves it. Mm-hmm. It's let me bust my ass today mm-hmm. because they deserve a better life.
Right.
And I'm supposed to provide for that. Even though I get frustrated, I get upset, I get sad, all these things. But it's like, I have to do this because you guys deserve that.
No, you say things like that and I fully get it. And that's one of the reasons that I say I would try my best to be fair. Like I've told you in the past, it depends on how it happened as to how fair I would be. If you cheat on me, all bets off. But anything else, we can have a conversation about it.
And see, that's the big thing, man, is cheating. Cheating mm-hmm. usually is the cutoff for everybody. Sometimes people can work through it, but it's hard.
Yeah, I don't see you hitting me, so I don't see the abuse factor or anything like that. So it's just like,
right. It's difficult, to say, okay, if somebody cheated, how would you react? Mm-hmm. But even if somebody cheated, I would still feel the same way. Even though if you cheated on me, I would be completely pissed.
I can be a woman scorned.
you know, I would be completely pissed. But
I can win an Oscar for woman scoring if you need me to.
But the thing about it is like I would just be extremely fair with the situation because I would want the situation to be resolved faster than, you know.
Yeah, you would definitely.
Anything.
And I mean, I agree with that because especially with us having a child now, I would not want to like drag out a divorce over some dumb stuff. Like, let's just be like, you be a good dad. You tell me when you want her. I tell you when that's not going to happen. Yeah. And we keep it moving.
And we keep it pushing. We set rules, we set boundaries and keep going that way. It's been plenty of times where we've seen in different people's relationship where those rules hadn't been set and the goalpost is constantly changing for people. And, you know, you look at it and you're like, man, I hate that. I hate this. I hate, you know, hate it for them. And that's something I never want to go through.
And that's not even just for divorce. That's just like breaking up and kids being involved. Right. Like, it gets difficult. It gets very, I don't want to say sketchy, but it's like touch and go. Right.
Definitely, man. It's such a serious topic of getting divorced or just talking about divorce, but it's a necessary conversation. Especially it's necessary. The best time to have it, I think, is when you're happy. It's when you're not thinking about getting divorced because you may never have to touch that plan.
Right.
You know, because you got a 50-50 shot at it.
The hope is to death do us part, but I mean, you might just do some dumb stuff.
Yeah, you never know.
And I mean, and that's not you or it's not me, but you just never know what life is going to throw.
Right,
your
truly.
Relationship.
And that was one of the causes of us actually wanting to do the podcast because when we started it, we was like, we're fresh into our marriage. And we're trying to make sure that we're able to be on the positive side of the 50% by staying together for years and years to come. And we caught ourselves always asking older couples, how have y'all been together? And, you know, like the things. And the oldest couple I remember us talking to was my grandparents.
Yeah.
And it's been plenty of times they have told us at one point in time, they like wasn't talking to each other. You know,
your grandmother would always be like, "I slept in another room and I forgot what I was mad about." Like, it's so funny how often that conversation came up about her sleeping in the other room and her forgetting why she was upset.
Man, and it was so funny. But you know, we're here to help other couples along with helping us stick together, stay together. Even though you know, we try to tell people about, you know, we argue, we fuss at each other, we get mad with each other and stuff like that. We table conversations and, you know, and everything like that. But we did have the conversation of if we got divorced, what do we do?
But I think one of the things that you also have to think about, like, I look at Will and Jada's relationship. They have gone into it saying divorce is not an option. But we have to understand that happiness is a better option.
Right.
Than divorce not being an option. So when you look at it from like those lenses of do I want to be happy or do I want to be married?
Right.
You have a decision to make because yes, you can be happily married or you could be happy or you could be married.
Right.
Like, it's not always the person that you're with that can give you the sum of happily married.
Right.
So you definitely have to sit back and like ingest all of that and decide, am I going to be married? Am I going to be happy? And am I going to be happily married? Right. Because it's all peaches and cream in the beginning, or it should be.
Yeah, right. It definitely should be, but.
And if it's not, maybe you should assess some things.
Yeah.
But with you having peaches and cream in the beginning, you want it to continue. It might not be peaches and cream every single day,
right?
But it should be at some point where you're like,
the
I
good
really
days
like this
should
person.
Definitely outweigh the bad days.
Yeah, you should definitely look at this person and be like, I genuinely like you.
Right.
And not just, I'm married to you here and there.
Right. Even though you have those days sometimes. So
a lot of those days in the pandemic.
Yeah. Right. But no, like I'm always for people fighting for their marriage, people, and I'm personally starting to understand what fighting for your marriage means. Mm-hmm. It's not literally I'm going to be out here fighting people to make sure that my marriage sticks together. It's doing the work.
Right.
It's learning your spouse. It's growing with your spouse. It's communicating with your spouse. It's saying, hey, I don't like this. Mm-hmm. You know, this is what we need to do to change it. And if your spouse doesn't jump on the idea of changing, you have to change your behavior, because before I can ask her to change, I have to change something.
Right.
You know, I can't expect her to change, drop everything, and I'm still holding all the old things that I hold. So it's all of those things putting into motion and doing the work, right? Doing the research, learning yourself and your partner, and being willing to be vulnerable and being willing to grow, and being told that, hey, that doesn't work for me, you know. So, so hopefully we can help those people, you know, that's thinking about divorce or, you know, hadn't thought about divorce. Like, hey, please have the conversation of divorce, because, I mean, let's look at the stats, man. It's 50% stay together, 50% get divorced. Like, I mean, you have a 50-50 shot at this thing. And right now, while you're happy, man, just think about what happens if it doesn't work, or what happens if it does work. You know, think about that too. I think that's just as important as thinking about it if it doesn't work. So,
absolutely.
Do we have a listener letter for today's episode?
We actually do. Please send your listener letters to ouraugustlovestory@gmail.com, and we just may read it aloud on the show. This question says, good morning. How do you guys feel about your mother contacting your significant other for things and not saying anything to you about it? My mother currently does this to my husband, and I don't like it. Can you guys let me know if I'm tripping or not?
Yeah, she tripping. I think, and I'm basing this off of the relationship that I have with your mom. Your mom, I'm pretty sure I've said this before, but your mom treats me as her son. You know, and my mom would call me to ask me for stuff, to tell me about stuff, to, you know, give me things and everything like that. And your mom does the same thing. I think this, like, you have to think about why. Like, why does she think it's important for her mom to run things through her, basically, rather than having a relationship with her spouse? Not no sexual relationship or anything like that. But
you draw the line there.
Right. Yeah, you draw the line there, but it's like a genuine, this is my son, you know, son and mother relationship. Yeah,
like, I don't see any issue with that. I mean, granted, we don't have that relationship with the dads.
Yeah.
If my stepdad could, like, save a number correctly, he probably would call you.
Right. I was gonna say, like, your stepdad, like, still the same thing.
Yeah, but like, you know what I'm saying, he doesn't know how to work his phone.
Right, exactly. That's just a technology thing. But even though with that, you know, when we go to Memphis, your stepdad always talking to me about something. He like asked me to go to work with him every time. I'm like, nah, I'm not finna do that.
Nobody wants to work for you. Like, nobody. Like, everybody gets fired in the family if they work for you after a day. Like, let's not even open that up. Like, let's not do that. But no, I look at, like, family as a spectrum. And when you marry into the family, like, you guys are genuinely family. So, your aunts and uncles are my aunts and uncles. Your cousins are my cousins. Like, we make jokes about cousins all the time.
We do.
I mean, at this point, there are no cousins on the first cousin line that we did not know.
Right.
I mean, that we knew before marriage. I mean, let me not say that. Like, I didn't see anybody growing up, or nobody was born.
Right.
Like, we've all come into this in the last 7 years of knowing each other, getting to know each other, and like truly trying to bond as a family.
Right.
And I'm from a very large blended family. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't remember at what age I was when I realized that my grandfather was not my uncle's dad. Yeah. Like, I knew that everybody had last names, but I didn't have that concept of step family as a small kid. Like, I was definitely like late elementary school, middle school before it like clicked in my head that, hey, granddaddy's their stepdad, not their real dad. Where is their dad? Why have I never met their dad? And they did have a relationship with their dad. I just didn't know him. Yeah. But when you look at family like that, I don't think that anything is weird. My brothers will call and, you know, be like, can I talk to Tommy? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, right. Here's the phone. But I mean, same in your family. Like, your uncle will call you saying, I called Artieka. She's not answering her phone. Yeah. Where is she? And, you know, I call them back. So it's just, I think you are tripping. Right. For lack of better words. Like, you need to get to the root, as Tommy says, of why you feel like it's not the right thing to do. Like, has it been something in your past with your mom overstepping a boundary in a relationship? Because that does happen. It's not right, but it happens. So you have to analyze that part of it first to get to the root of why you think that it's a bad idea for your mom to be reaching out to your husband on whatever it may be. Because I know, like, again, when we go to Memphis for holidays, my mom puts Tommy to work. And like, she has a son do this prior to us getting there. But in the same regard, they have conversations about things that, you know, they're going to do together. Like, the next time we visit her, he's already like planned out all this food he's grilling on her grill. Right. And like, it was just a conversation of, Mom, can I do this? And she was like, you know, I don't care. Tell me what you need. And that's just how we operate. Right. So
yeah, I just think, you know, for you just to not overreact, talk to them about boundaries and everything. If you're just that uncomfortable with them having a relationship together. Right. Just talk about the boundaries that, you know, you're comfortable with, and then go from there.
And I wouldn't automatically draw a flat line unless there's some type of disrespect or overstepping boundaries. I would not draw a flat line in the sand to say, Mom, do not contact him. Right. Because that looks like it's just weird.
Yeah, it just is. But hopefully that helps.
Hope so.
What's our quote for the episode?
So I picked a song, and I just talked about him earlier, by Chance the Rapper. It is called Juice. He said, God give me one sentence more. Maybe I just gotta get suspended more. Hashtag it, get mentions for it. Make you love it, get it trending more. And then act humble. Here's some bull that some dude mumble. You know how I feel about mumble rap. Yeah.
And there you have it, guys. Thank you once again for listening to another episode of the August Love Story podcast. I know we talked about divorce in this, and I must say it again. No, we are not planning on getting a divorce. It's just a conversation we had, and we. But
if we do, we just gonna be real awkward doing this podcast deal.
Yeah, right, exactly. But you know, it's just a conversation we felt was important to have, and so we just figured we'll put it out and let you guys hear what our thoughts were on divorce. And, you know, if it's helpful to you, it's helpful to you. If not, you know, you just enjoyed us talking about situations that happen with us. So, if you haven't already, please go subscribe to the channel at August Love Story on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at August Love Story.
Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and where else is it? You just put it somewhere new.
I'm not sure. Deezer is on there.
That's what the new one is.
Is it? Mm-hmm. It's on Deezer. It's on SoundCloud. You know, 3 Amp Media. Studios produce this podcast. And did I miss anything?
Nope. Comment down below.
Yeah, comment, like the video on YouTube, hit the bell on YouTube so you know when we're dropping something new. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's it.
We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.
Bye.